Welcome to the Massive Impact Show. I'm your host, Taylor Reed. This is my co-host, Nathan Fort. Today we have a very special guest, an old friend of mine, Jared Brown. He's here. He's one of the best sales leaders I've ever met, an awesome salesman, and just an all-around good dude. Jared, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Seriously, nice to meet you, Nate, and Tay. Thanks. Appreciate you bringing me in.
Absolutely. How do you feel right now, like about where your business is at, and tell us what you got going on?
Oh man, just a lot of gratitude, a lot of just like at some times in my life right now, I feel lost, but I feel found all at once. It's kind of a lot of things like that where you guys know as entrepreneurs, like you've been through things and you've done things, and all of a sudden when good things are really just falling into place, it just, it just feels like you're almost lost when things are just going so well. And things are just going really good for me, and I'm really happy, filled with a lot of gratitude. So a little background about me, especially for you, Nate. So for about 9 years, I worked for a previous pest control company, and I actually got recruited in college to go door to door for them. And I was scared out of my mind. I didn't have any sales background as far as like true commission. I sold TVs in high school at Sears. And it was all commission. I got brought out and with my older brother, some great leadership, and I ended up doing really, really well. I just had my first child, which is kind of crazy, About a week before, I traveled across the country with no money to just put it all on the line. And it worked out really well.
That's when you started the pest control?
Yeah.
Sales, you had a brand new baby too?
Brand new baby.
No pressure.
No pressure. Just like, yeah. In college, 22 years old, and there's a lot of guys that do something like that. Taylor's done something like that before, and it was wild, but it worked out, and it started I was going to be an orthodontist, And now I'm a business owner, and I sell pest control, and I sell a lot of other things now too, but that was really like the start of where I'm at now.
And I don't know how much you want to go into it, but you guys are kind of creating like a full service, like home service business, right? You've got pest, you've got solar now, right? Where else are you guys going?
So there's obviously a lot in the works right now, right, after our chat.
Yeah.
So our goal is to be across every service-based platform. So that's going to include HVAC, plumbing, restoration, electrical, even niche things like turf cleaning, or you may have seen guys that come and clean your trash cans, or whatever it is that home services is about. What we found is that people want those, but they want you to show up, they want you to do a great job, and they want it at a fair price. And when I opened up my own pest control company, and I was dealing with a lot of the local competitors, I really was nervous that, like, what is this gonna be like? Because now I have full control over what my service entails. I have full control over our phones, our operations. Like, the buck really now stops with me. And so our reviews, our culture, our brand is going to represent everything that I've always wanted to do. And so it's kind of scary, but it's just about doing what you say you're going to do, following through, doing it with a smile, being friendly, and just delivering.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, because people like you and Taylor just fascinate me, because not everybody can go knock on a door and sell something, or even sell TVs for that matter at Sears. It takes I think a different kind of mindset to do that. But then to start your own business that is completely dependent on sales, and then to expand that business further down the line, I'm fascinated by that whole journey. So tell me a little bit about the size of the company, maybe your staffing, some of the challenges that you were already facing before you decided to kind of expand into all these other home service areas.
Well, to give you a little breakdown, so we've been in business just a little over a year. Our first customer came September 1st, 2021. And, starting early on, you're a no-name brand with, living in Arizona, pest control. If I go out of my front porch and I hit a pitching wedge in any direction, I'm going to find 4 or 5 different pest control companies.
Yeah.
I have 3 in my neighborhood, And so it was about like differentiating yourself, you know? And as far as where we're at now, my life has led me to a point where, you know, fortunate or unfortunate, a few years ago I got to this point where I was at an extremely, you know, high success rate, had a whole organization of friends and people and sales reps, and you know, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so that's something for me that I struggled with and I was hiding the entire time. And through all of my success, and even when I tell people about it now, they kind of are surprised, like that was happening the whole time. And I said, you know, if you only knew, you know, how much was actually in me during those sales presentations, during those training meetings, during those like nights where you're calling me and needing help, and it's like, I need my own help. But it led me to a point right now where I was fortunate to be left with, you know, at different times, kind of no one else left with me. The only person that really, truly stuck by my side the entire time is my wife, lovely wife, Morgan. And, you know, during that time, after I pulled out of it and am continuing to pull out of it, it's a never-ending process. I found myself staffed with one person, my wife, but we had everything we needed. And we made it work for the first 6 months. Then we, you know, her dad came in, and my father-in-law, and he was our only tech. You know, I was out teching too, but I was wearing all the hats. And during this process, for me, it was all about creating that separation that I subconsciously and spiritually actually needed in order to heal, and in order to, I guess, like rip out the parts of me that were still trying to stick behind, but I wanted to be away from it. And so in order to like really get that out, there's a whole number of processes I've had to go through. But long story short, probably about, you know, we were killing it this whole time, but about 4 months ago, I started bringing in partners. My sobriety really started taking off. My spiritual connection with God, my version of God, and really started aligning with everything I've been trying to do with my business, trying to do with my purpose. What I really have felt most of my life has been trying to come out, but alcohol and other distractions and traumas and things were holding it in. And so about 4 months ago, I brought in my first partner to help me with part of my business, an area that we wanted to expand to. And then, so that really opened me up to bringing other people into my fold again. Because I definitely had a little bit of worry because I had a fold before. I had everything that I needed, everyone that I needed in every regard. And I could help all of them as well. And I pushed them away. I kept them away. And, you know, I was living an alcoholic life. And now I'm just blessed to be living right and clean. And the beautiful thing is all those people in the interim, they were all advancing their lives and also going through their own traumas, their own spiritual journeys. And there's something that's happening, you know, there's just some magic and people are coming into place. And I'm not recruiting, I'm not actively hiring, but I've hired, you know, 40 people in the last 45 days. And it's every single day that there's someone that's popping into my life where they're fitting into everything that we're trying to do. And so it was about 3 months ago that I met my partner, Scott, my new partner, and you know, he has, I'd love for you guys to meet him. He has an amazing background, amazing story, and what ended up happening was, you know, it was an organized lunch that ended up being 3 hours, and then 7 days in a row getting together, and we're just long lost brothers. And all of my weaknesses are his strengths are, and vice versa, I guess you could say. And we just started coming up with these ideas, and we just said, like, why not? You know, why stop here? Like, why not all? Especially once maybe we get into our vision. But so yeah, our goal is aligning all those businesses, staffing them properly with the best people available, overpaying to industry standard, which we can talk about, is really important to me. Providing a life, a true life for my employees. Not what's enough to get it hired? How far can I push them before they quit? How do I give them the best life that if I was going to be a pest control tech, if I was going to be someone who answers phones for customers, if that was going to be me, how would I want to be treated? How would I want to be respected? And the thing that just kind of boggles my mind a little is that when you actually break down business and you break down financial sheets, data sheets, which again, that's my partner's strength. But when you break it down and you get it organized and together, there's enough money for that. There's way more than enough money for that. And I don't know if this podcast we're allowed to swear, but I think it's complete bullshit when people say, well, we got to cut where we can. And it's like, well, maybe a few less helicopter rides and
Try to spend where you can.
Yeah.
Try to overpay where you can.
Exactly.
I think it's a key takeaway right here, because part of the purpose of this show, one of the objectives is to make an impact for entrepreneurs and people who are in business, running their businesses, or people who are maybe considering, starting a business. Your story illustrates such a key lesson that sometimes, if we're hitting a speed bump or a roadblock in the business, how important is it to consider that maybe there's some things I've got to fix about myself.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's not an element of the business that's the problem. Maybe I got to fix something about me.
Yep.
I've had situations like that myself where I've had to kind of turn inward, and my experience has been every time I do that, I find something.
Yeah.
Right.
Always.
I think that'd be the case, for everybody if you're really honest.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
It is.
It's painful. And fortunately,
sometimes hard to find too.
Yeah.
You think you're being honest with yourself, but then you got to take another step back.
Right. And fortunately, it sounds like you have a great wife at your side. My wife's my best friend. She'll be brutally honest with me too.
Yeah.
So if I can't see it, she can see it really well, and she doesn't sugarcoat it either. But it's amazing. I love your story about how things just kind of seem to roll a little more smoothly.
Yeah.
Taking care of some of those things about yourself, and maybe it is that God kind of helped put things in order, or maybe you just got better.
Yeah.
At what you're doing too.
Yeah.
Who knows? Probably a combination of all those things. But what a great key to success, right there.
I want to go back to, you mentioned a couple times like making that jump, right? Or making the switch, or the pivotal moment where you decided to take some sort of massive action.
Yeah.
How do you get over those elements of fear and self-doubt, and whether it's overcoming a great personal trial or starting a new business? Like, how do you make that decision to jump? What gives you that strength?
I think it's a culmination of life events. I love going on a trip with some buds to Hawaii or Mexico or Lake Powell or something, and finding a cool cliff to jump off, just like that feeling of where your heart's racing. That for me is really fun. It's exciting. It's not for everyone. But I've been doing that since I was 10 years old. And so in life, I think we all have those moments where no matter who you are, what you're doing, everyone's going to have to be at the edge of that cliff. And there's going to have to be trust that at the end of the day, you're going to come up out of the water, you're going to be laughing and smiling, and you're going to swim back to the boat. But you have a choice. You can either crawl back down the cliff, which if you really think about it is more dangerous, or you take the jump. It's 30 feet, it's water, that's what you're here for. And we're here in life, I believe, to do those things. We're here to make that leap. And at the end of the day, I don't want to be stuck at the end of my life and be seeing myself crawl down the cliff. It's about impact.
Yeah.
It's about what am I going to do with this? It's not about how many shows I can watch and how much good food I can eat, So I think for me, it's a culmination of life events where I've had to do that. Going back to my pest control first years, I had to do that. We didn't have money.
Yeah. No other option.
No other options. My back was against the wall. My first summer, I went out with two of my best friends, and I was scared out of my mind. And I barely made any money my first week. Made like $300. I worked 60, 70 hours.
You're like, let's do more of this.
I'm like, what the hell is this, dude?
Love this.
Yeah. My two best friends, they made more money than I did that week. And then they come to my house on Saturday or Sunday night and they're like, hey man, I don't like this. We're going to leave. And I'm like, what the I've got my freaking 10-year-old baby here, or 10-week-old baby, or 10-day-old baby here. I've got my wife who's like just been split open. We all were doing this together, and I don't have that chance to crawl back down the cliff. So I did everything I could to keep him to stay, and it's just like, And so yeah, it's one of those things where eventually like you're the only one left up on the cliff, and you just got to do it because there's too much on the line,
Absolutely.
So I think I've been fortunate to find myself in those spots where I was forced into it.
Yeah.
But then you learn and you grow and you're eventually able to take that leap yourself.
Take on the
And
challenge.
you're excited about it. Eventually
Yeah.
now, I wake up every day jumping out of bed at 3:59 a.m. So my version of that is I'm running up the cliff, I'm running up, and then I don't even go step to the edge. I'm just, how do I do this over and over again? But
So
it's
you got
that
really,
habit.
you got really good at sales, right? You were
Yeah.
doing well, making a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I always love these pivotal moments. So what was it that, was there an experience you had where you decided, you know what, we're just not going to stay on this path anymore. We're going to take a different path. We're going to do our own thing. Maybe tell me about that pivot.
Yeah, so that's another one of those scenarios where, man, wouldn't it have been nice if I thought this amazing career job that I had was my forever. And then I thought, I want to do my own thing, so appreciate it, love you guys, I'm going to do my own thing now. Unfortunately, I was not backed into that. I put myself in a spot where that wasn't going to be possible anymore to have that be forever. I worked with my brother, who's my best friend. Still is. Love him. He's in every fiber of my being. I love him. I had made amazing lifelong friends. The CEO of Aptiv is very close to me still. And it was about a year and a half ago, maybe a little over, and I got the call. And this was after they had said, hey, Jared, we love you. You need help. Here's a good amount of money. Go to rehab. Like, we got you, though. We'll cover everything. Just go and be safe. Went, tried it. Fail. And a couple months after that, it was like, hey, we love you. We love you, and we wish we could be around you, but it's time to go. And it was the hardest but most loving, firing, severance, break off, whatever you want to call it. Vess even said to me, like, how do we want to phrase this? What's going to be most comfortable for you? How do we make this so you're set up as best as we can? And he did a lot of things more than that, a lot more things than I'm allowed to talk about. So I'm forever grateful for that. But it was one of those areas where I got left up on the cliff alone. And, just gotta do what you can with it. And I was able to luckily get out of it through a whole number of ways. And then I was luckily still left with this skill set and this drive and this passion and kind of focus, but also like unaware of where I was going to take it. And I just thought, I know pest control. I know I have a family to provide for. I know I have value to bring to customers. And I at least have a vision, so let's go for it. And we did it, and it's great. It's worked out great. But for me, it was, I was put in that spot, and it was how I was going to react to it.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that earlier that, there was a certain point where the business really took off.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned with, sobriety and kind of turning inward and kind of fixing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Those two things lined up timing-wise. Like the business really took off when you fixed yourself. It's so cool to see that. Let's go back to your childhood and what created Jared Brown, right?
Oh, man.
Let's go back to, who were you when you were a little kid and how did you get here? How did you end up on this path?
So when I was a kid, the cool thing about when you stop drinking is you get your memory back. It's crazy. I couldn't even remember so much of my childhood.
That can be super helpful.
Yeah, it's great for analyzing and understanding. And I've definitely walked this this road and gone through those thought processes and different personal therapies to like figure it out, like what is it? So, I grew up Mormon, which is awesome. I think Mormons are great. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because I don't want to offend anyone, but I have my own feelings, and it's also just been a massive up, down, left, right about where I'm at with how that affected me. And in the Mormon culture, I served a mission. I came back from my mission and didn't have the greatest experience, but that was a lot of what was contributing towards my drinking, was trying to cover up the pain and the sin and the guilt, and that kind of led that way. But as far as all my childhood, so I family of 4, 2 loving parents. I would call it middle income. I guess 4 siblings, five kids, but middle income, Seattle, Washington. I was a really smart kid. I was always very with it, but also I like to use that brain to get myself in trouble and try to get myself
get bored sometimes.
Yeah, try to get myself out of trouble too, So 3rd grade, I remember they put all the bad boys together or something, and I was in the principal's office 30 times plus that year. Whether it was sneaking out of class, pantsing my friends, we're all, stuff like that. It was just boys will be boys, and like that was kind of who I was, but at the same time, then when I get back from the principal's office, like I'm the first one done on all the homework, the math, the everything, like got my stuff done still. So I think that's a lot about kind of like who I was, is just getting in trouble, but getting the job done as well, and just trying to like.
It's been a lifelong journey to try to correct that
pattern.
Yeah,
dude, it still is happening. Yeah. It's like, oh shit, I got myself here. Like, how do I get myself out?
Yeah.
How do I help this?
Were you around entrepreneurs at all as a kid, or were your parents entrepreneurial, or?
My dad was and still is a pharmaceutical sales rep. So the sales ability, definitely the talking and the communication, and so many of the little mannerisms and things that I do. It's like I see my dad talking to someone, I'm like, oh, that's just how I close. Like that's crazy.
So, going from that environment as a kid and into adulthood, what were some of the ideas that you had about money and wealth and success that had to change, like stuff that you had to leave behind?
I didn't drop this one until probably the last, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. But the biggest mindset change that I feel like I had to drop was moving from a scarce mindset to an abundant mindset. Mm-hmm. There's always enough.
Right.
I was making close to 7 figures, and I was still thinking there wasn't enough, And it kind of eventually hit me. It's like, well, what is enough then? And so I would say that'd be my biggest mindset shift. There's always enough. There's always enough to give. And the craziest thing that I think I've had to shift, and I don't know if everyone understands, and definitely a message I would love for people to be able to take home, is the tangibility and how real the equation is of giving as much as you can to receive as much as you want or need. Mm-hmm. And there's the idea of giving all you have, and it's if you only have $1 in your pocket, give it. I get that. But what happens when you got $10 million in your pocket? Is $250 to the homeless guy, like, is that actually happening? Or is it just kind of the idea of it? And so for me, the way I saw my life completely change, where people wanted to work with me, people wanted to be a part of what was going on, call it bragging or whatever, but I just said, I'm fucking tired about hearing about it and thinking I'm about it. I'm gonna be about it. And like, I will always have hundreds of dollars in my car for whenever I see anyone. I don't care if the sign says, I'm gonna go buy drugs with this. It's like, man, you know what? You need help. Like, do what you need to do, and I hope your path finds you. But like, help, always help. And there's, I believe very much in the law of attraction. I believe in manifesting. I believe you're the average of the 5 people you hang out the most with. And I believe so much that what you give, you will always get back in return. I think of giving like, if this is my physical body and you need a piece, I can take something here and give it to you. But now what I'm actually doing is I'm opening myself up to receive that light back. And it's better than what I had given you. And I think that's how the world works. We need to give more, and then in turn, we're going to receive more. And we're going to receive better. And then we're going to be able to give better. And it's a cycle.
I love that. That's such a common theme, though, going from that scarcity mindset to the abundance.
Yeah.
That's a hard shift for a lot of people to make, especially if you have early, experiences early on in life that teach you the whole scarcity part of it. That was a lot of my upbringing. So I know about the one baby you had when you started selling. What's your family look like now?
So I've got 3 kids, 9, 8, and almost 5. Boy, girl, boy. Chase, Marley, and Jack. Awesome. They're amazing. Loving, happy, playful, artistic, happy, sad, every between. Their emotions are on their sleeves. And it's just a beautiful thing. My goal is to just try to be there, be their friend, be their father, be every role I can be, but allow them to be who they're going to be.
So I'm curious to know a little bit about what you guys do with your kids. My wife and I have 6 kids. We're 4 years old to 16, and we just spent some time on another podcast talking about some things we do. Have you identified some goals you have for your kids? Are there certain activities or habits you guys have formed that you feel good about, you want to share with others who might be in a similar situation?
So I was always going to be the dad. I always thought I'm the dad that when I have kids, like, I wasn't good enough at this sport, and so I'm going to get them in early. I'm going to push them. I'm going to get them in the gym at 4 years old, get some, throw a little extra protein in the bottle. And when push came to shove and that time came, my oldest son, he's played all the sports, and, he'll do it. But at the end of the day, he's not enjoying all of them. And so I had to take a step back and really sit down and say, like, why is my way better? And why is what I want him to be what he should be? And so I asked him, and I also thought for myself, because at the end of the day, it's a 9-year-old, for example. He doesn't know for sure. He doesn't know if he's going to like badminton.
He might want to be an Avenger when he grows up.
Bingo. What's wrong with that? So I kind of tried to use my own brain and think about, like, how does he operate? Like, what are his gifts that we should try to nourish? And he's artistic. He's musical. He loves drawing. He loves rapping.
That's all. We got to get him on here.
Yeah.
Have him do a rap. Can we have him do the intro?
Father, son, rap. We got to put that on the list.
We'll see.
He's like, I don't know about father, son, maybe just son.
Hype man. Yeah, he needs a hype man.
I come in. I try to help him out. But it's kind of just trial and error, and then it's judging, I think, as a parent, instead of what are the results of what I'm getting out of this? It's more, what are they getting out of this? And then trying to jump on board with it.
A major kind of aspect of what we do is like the educational stuff with children, right? Educating families financially. So much strife and struggle in the financial world has come just from a lack of knowledge. So what do you guys do with your kids to help instill in them, all these lessons that you've learned through, crazy experiences and sales experience and business experience, starting your own business? How do you instill those lessons in your kids effectively?
Yeah, I try to take a couple of things that my dad did, my mom did, that like really set me up to be motivated, to be incentivized, to have drive. And then I also just I've taken in some amazing, really cool ideas from other successful people or successful parents, or a lot of them are people who became successful because of their parents' systems and ideas and areas that they want to, help cultivate their kids' intellect and emotion. And one of them that I took from a mentor that was in my industry a few years ago, he posted on Facebook and said that his dad from a young age would pay him a certain dollar amount to read books. And he started it very early, whether it's Calvin and Hobbes or whatever, all the way up to Maxwell and Carnegie. And I thought, how cool is that? And so I started that from day one. Read a book, you get $5. And with our kids, it's all about setting up your own financial system with them to provide incentive. There's probably some kids who would be like, $5 for that? Are you kidding me? And then there's some kids that would be like, that's more than I've ever had in my life because my parents don't give me money. You know, they give me quarters or something. And so it's whatever the value is, it doesn't matter how much, but fit it within your own family system. And as time goes on, like right now it's, you know, Diary of the Wimpy Kid type books. And eventually, as he gets older, I'm going to be able to start plugging in some of those other ones and maybe increasing the value because the habit's already built that he loves reading books. You know, he's read 5 books in the last like month and a half. And awesome. It's because he loves the books, but he's developed a love for them. And it started because he was incentivized in order to, you know, be able to buy candy or be able to like, well, if I'm going to be straight about my oldest son, he does chores and reads books. This is how generous he is. He does chores and reads books. The most money he's ever had is $65. And he went so hard for so long to get to that point, and he spent every single dollar he had on his sister's 8th birthday present because he wanted to show her how much he loved her.
Oh man,
that's awesome.
And that's like right there, like kid. Right there, I'm just like, okay, mic drop. I'm like, I don't know if I did this right or how this happened, but like, you're my example.
It's the abundance mindset right there.
Yeah.
He'll get it back.
Yeah, he'll get it back.
A lot of people want to, you know, change their life or make the jump into, you know, some sort of entrepreneurial journey. They want to start a business. They want to make a move or, you know, whatever it is. There's so many resources out there. You know, there's now all the stuff on social media. There's books. There's friends and families and all these mixed messages. If you had to tell someone where to start, you know, where would you recommend that they look first?
Dude, you're so right. And I didn't even think about the social media aspect because, you know, I have these thing called essentially like effective time wasters or fun time wasters or things where you are getting value, but at the end of the day, you should be doing something else. And that includes me scrolling on TikTok. But fortunately, if you curate your social media to be about the things that are beneficial to you, as soon as something political and annoying pops up, the algorithm acts. If you stay on it and listen, it's going to get you more of that. So as soon as something like that pops up, I scroll past it because I'm thinking always about my algorithm. So as far as that goes, that's a must. Follow great pages, inspirational pages. Make sure your time wasters are at least having some benefit and not pulling you down. But I have this, you know, this book that I recommend everyone reads. I read it at least once a year. To me, it's my Bible for how I want to live and who I want to be. And you guys have read it before, but it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And every time I read it and listen to it, the same way as the Bible, you're going to get something out of it that's different, something out of it that applies to your life now. What applied to me a year ago when I finished it, or 6 months ago that I finished it, is I'm going to get something that applies to today and next week's meetings and next week's relationships and experiences. And the message I get out of that book is just how you would like to be treated and understanding, I guess, how to form your conversations and how to form your thoughts correctly and designed around providing value to someone else before ever thinking of yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you're providing value for someone and it's true value, it's not propped up value, they're always going to want to return the favor. It's natural human inclination to be able to return. And I just always try to find myself in a spot where I try to think about what does this person need, and if I can give it to them, I know that whether I need something now or in the future, I know that I got another person on my team that's here to support me. And so that's what I get out of that book is just how to treat people.
That's awesome. Now, one of the questions that our viewers always like us to ask is, do you remember when you crossed kind of the threshold, like, I've made it? Do you remember what it was like when you crossed that threshold the first time?
Oh, I guess it depends on your version of made it, you know? I made $100,000 when I was 22 years old in 4 months, and that was a made it. From zero to that. I had my baby, I had bills, I had college, oh my gosh, I don't have to work while I'm in college anymore. I can graduate debt free. So that was a made it. You know, buying my first house was a made it. That was a few years later. So different thresholds, but there's definitely something that happens. And with me and my story that we've gone through, you know, it's how you respond and how you react after that. And the cool thing about what I've been through is that I get to have made it and lost it multiple times. I made it. Time for a story for another time, but I mean, I made it when I was 30 years old, and I stood up from a table on my 30th birthday at 1 p.m. after 13 hours at a blackjack table, thousands of drinks, 4 different other illegal drugs in my system, and $500,000 in my hands. And I made it, right? Or so I thought, but I lost all of it. I lost all of that. And did I keep some of that money? Of course, like, I'm doing okay. But I made it, right? And I had my own, I made it over the last 6 months, you know, and it's like to have made it again and to make it back, for me, is what it's all about.
I think it's so important to, like, no matter what roadblocks pop up or personal trials or, you know, ups and downs, like, you just always are looking forward. And that's kind of the spirit of an entrepreneur. It's just, you keep looking forward no matter what, just always asking yourself, what's next? And one of the things that I always tell the guys that I coach, I say, you know, because they're stressed out about all these things that they could potentially do. And you're trying to build a business and there's 1,000 steps to get from like point A to point B and get to your goal. And they say, how do you choose what to prioritize? I always tell them, just pick the next best thing you can do. Because sometimes there's like 4 really good things you could potentially do.
Yeah.
And they all seem really good, but just pick whatever the next step is that's the best option and just do that. And then you do it again, and you do it again, and then you do it again. And then suddenly you've hit your goal.
If you do end up turning around, you're so many steps forward, right? But it's if you don't make that one step, the action.
I think I read something recently that kind of blew me away. So the word priority wasn't used in plural till like something crazy like the 90s. So for the longest time, it meant
Singular focus.
a priority.
You only
there were
have
no
one.
priorities. There was one priority. And I want to emphasize something you just said a couple minutes ago, because I think it's at the core of any genuinely, truly successful business is the focus is on helping people. And if you can genuinely solve a problem, if you can genuinely make people's lives better and provide a service or a product that's real, that does that, money will flow. Money will flow to that. Right. The money chases good ideas. Right. And I think that's the confidence that a lot of people I know, and I can sense it in yourself too. People who have been truly successful, they know that it's not money that you have to make money. It's you. It's your mind. It's good ideas. You bring good ideas and solutions to the table, and you remove the barriers for people to access that product or that service. Then wealth is going to flow.
You don't worry about it. You know it's coming.
Right. And if you lose it, you're not going to be devastated if you have that mindset, because you know, well, I just got to come up with another good idea.
It's okay. It means that my value's been complete here. It's time to move on. That's all it is. It's not a bad thing. It's great.
Which is why a true education and information is so critical, because that's your greatest asset. Right. If you know how to learn, you know how to keep yourself sharp, then you could lose every physical thing you have. You could lose every penny you have. You're not out of the game. You're never out of the game. You've got your mind.
You've got your skill set. You're sharp. You're ready.
I gotta ask. We asked this as kind of the closing question with all of our guests. If today was your last day, right? Like, you're gone tomorrow. You can't leave any other influence other than like 2 or 3 things that you want to tell the world you knew and your kids that you knew. What would that knowledge be that you would impart with them?
I would start by saying that it's always better to be generous than to be left, with your version of what is full, or what you need. Give first, think about yourself second, and you do it enough and you never worry about what's in your back pocket because you know what's coming. And with my businesses, I call it a selfish plug, but at the end of the day, I think it's important that one of my visions and my goals is like really what everything boils down to that I'm going to be about is how I use my skill set, how I use my talent, how I use my 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 10th chances that I've had to truly have that impact. And my vision and my goal for what I want to be about and what I want the world to hopefully follow is, I have this goal of completely changing the way that business is done. I not only I want to be, I'm about to be a disruptor. And we're gonna change the space across the board in business. And it revolves around treating your employees the way you truly would want to be treated, especially from an entrepreneurial standpoint. Entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs because they didn't want to be an employee. So if you had to be, and the reason you aren't an employee, what are those things that made you want to be an entrepreneur? And how can we fix that for our employees? And then secondly is through giving and gifts, and impact and change and culture. And our entire business strategy is designed around giving back to our communities around us, around our business. And of course, worldwide, there's always help that needs to happen. But people are gonna have a hard time competing when you get a premier white glove everything, top bottom. If there's a new thing I can add, I'm gonna add it. But no one can do more. And then when all of a sudden the price is gonna be the same, okay, so now we're equal. All right, you can't be beating that. And then I'm going to tell you that not only that, but 50% of our net profits across the board from all of our companies, 50% of our net profits prior to owner pay, so everything else is covered, is going to charity, local community, outreach programs, everything that is about what I want to be giving back, truly being a giver, not just being about having a tagline or a sponsorship. And if you're a consumer and you got scorpions at your house and you got me to come by your house who's going to do the very best that anyone can do, or even an equal partner or equal person who could do the same. But then this guy, the profits that are left are going to go help fund his next Lamborghini. And for me, it's going to help cover local sports for kids that have never had the chance to go play organized basketball or organized baseball. Or, we sponsor all schools in our neighborhood, in our area, and our outreach is just going to continue to go as we scale. So for me, I want to be all about it. I want to show that we are all about it. That's what our brand is. And for me, it's just going to be I don't care to swallow up the industry. In fact, it'd make my life and job a lot easier if people learned faster and adapted so I didn't have to take over. So at the end of the day, yeah, that's what we're going for.
Love it. Well, thanks for coming on. We've enjoyed
That's
having
awesome.
you on. We'll have you back to recap your future successes that
go.
you're going to have and your progress. Thanks for checking out the podcast, and click the links that you see pop up. They'll be in here somewhere, and follow us on social. Check out my good friend over here, and we'll see you next time.